Father Tom here. We're going to talk about the resurrection of Jesus. Friends will say to me, you have a background in science. How can you believe in the resurrection? And I tell them, I can't using the lens of science. You know, we might have what people say are pieces of the true cross or the Shroud of Turin or even a bone of the heel bone that has a nail through it. None of these prove the resurrection. We knew that crucifixion was common during the time of Jesus, but just because we find a piece of sliver that's said to be from the true cross, that doesn't prove the resurrection. But if we go through the lens of different areas, I think it gives us more evidence, a solid base to kind of understand the resurrection. We can use a historical lens, for example. You know, we know a little bit about the history of Jesus. We have testimonies. We have historians' accounts. Still doesn't prove the resurrection, but it takes us a lot closer there. We can use Scripture, of course. We can use a theological lens and say, yeah, okay, if we look at the truth of the Bible, the resurrection is right there. We can even go through a philosophical lens and see if it makes sense, if it's rational, reasonable. It takes us to a certain point, but it still doesn't prove, you might say, the resurrection. But we can use a scientific analogy to get us closer. I tell people, I say, do you believe in electrons or photons? Oh yeah. I say, well, have you ever seen one? No, no one's ever seen an electron. But we have instruments to measure, and we can detect them through the aid of instruments, and we certainly know the effects of them. I always tell people, if you don't believe in an electron, try this experiment at home. Get a lamp, unscrew the light bulb, wet your finger, and put it inside. And what do you feel? The movement of electrons, okay? Don't see them, but you detect them. You know the effect of them. Same thing with the resurrection. We can detect the response of those who claimed to see the resurrected Jesus. Not just the apostles, Mary Magdalene, and in Paul's letter to the Corinthians, he says 500 people observed the risen Christ. Some of them still alive when he wrote that letter. What other evidence do we have? The effects on their life. It changed their life. You have to ask why people would go to their death for something like the resurrection if it wasn't true, if they never saw the resurrected Christ. So do we have evidence? You bet. You bet. The people who experienced the resurrection, how it changed their life, and now it continues to change the lives of those who believe in Jesus. So I invite you this Easter season to reflect on how the resurrection might impact your life so that others can detect the resurrected Jesus in the way you live their life. Okay?